Welcome to True Print for Life. I'm your host, Christina Vera.
And I'm your co-host, Maylin Sambois. So, I'm so excited for us to get together again and this time talk about something that is dear to my heart more now than ever, which is self-care.
I bet.
I always think about you, about Christians. I'm like, this is nothing. Anyway, so self-care. So for us as entrepreneurs, as mothers, as family, right? Related to family. What do you do to do self-care for yourself? How do you take the time when there's no time, right? Because I think that is the biggest thing. I think sometimes I struggle pausing because there's so much to do. And you're thinking, if I sleep more, if I take time for myself, then this doesn't get done and then the world ends. And it's not the case. I find that when I take time for myself and rest, I'm actually show up better for things. Mm-hmm. But just getting to the point of taking the time to rest and recover and reset is a struggle. So we were talking about our times because, as Christina's preparing to do a very exciting thing, I'm like, well, how did you get to that you needed to do this? How do you plan for your self-care? How do you plan for your time away when you are an official, when you are a mother, a wife, and then an incredible entrepreneur? Like, tell me, how did you do that?
I don't know. I was going to let you go first. I mean, you just got back from the Dominican Republic, and that was part of your self-care. And you were out there for almost a month?
Yeah, 3
She was
weeks.
out there way too long, first of all.
Okay.
I didn't even know she was going to the Dominican Republic, but it goes back to what Maylin kind of started this episode. Like sometimes you just have to do things for yourself. And so when she was like, so I always know when Maylin has something to tell me.
and she may not like it.
She has a way. It's almost like I don't know how to feel about it.
It's a tone.
Well, there's always a couple of different things. Either she'll like text me and she'll be like, hey. She'll just show up to my house with like chocolates or something. And I'm like, what's going on?
Always leaving her happy.
It's always some kind of like, hey, so, this is happening or I'm doing this. And I'm like, oh, tell me more. And so I don't even know how you told me you were going to DR this time. I'm trying to remember.
I can't remember. It was
I think Emma told me. I don't even think you told me. Emma had said something like, well, Maylin, I don't know, something about Maylin's not going to be here. I said, well, where's she going? And she was like, oh, well, maybe I'm confused. And I was like, no, it sounds about right. And so, but I love that you got to go home and you got to be with your mom and go visit family that you hadn't seen in a while. So what was that like for you? Like, obviously it was a new whole experience.
It was with the baby.
Yeah.
So I think, one of the reasons why I went, everyone, besides that I love my country, is because after having the baby, my mom was here for 2 months, which is incredible for those that have support. Wow. And then it made me think about those that don't. And I'm praying for you all every day because it's just so hard. And even having my mother here and having the support that I needed, like Christina would show up and just bring things. People would send things to my house. It's still very, very helpful, but it was still difficult, I think, for me because I planned for so long to be a mom. I think I planned about all the logistic things, but I never planned for the mental piece of it. I really didn't know what that was going to be because it's different for everybody. Often people will ask me, how are you doing mentally? I was like, why do they ask me that question? That's just a weird question. And then in one moment it hit me. I was so overwhelmed and so like, oh my God, what am I doing? Like there's no routine anymore. Like motherhood's difficult. I don't know what Instagram is trying to do, but they're not showing you exactly what motherhood is. And that's me with support. So when my mom said, okay, I feel like you're healthy, you healing. I had a C-section, so I was healing well. The baby was healthy. She's been here for 2 months. She's married, right? So she's like, I have to go home and then I'll be back. And I was like, oh, you're leaving. Oh, no. We are leaving. There's no you leaving, right? We are leaving. And even figuring out the whole thing because I had to get a passport for the baby.
Right.
My passport, I had sent mine like ways ago. It didn't come on time. So even taking the trip, like making an intent. So I made a decision. I'm going to Dominican with my mother. Now, what has to happen to make that happen? And that took getting an emergency passport, from the agency of the passports for my baby and then for me. And then we got that on a Friday and we literally went on a Monday. We travel on a Monday. So for those that don't know, and maybe this is something that I had to learn too, if you have an emergency and you have to leave the country or something like that, you could get an emergency passport. Now to do that, you would need to buy a ticket and have proof that you have purchased a ticket. You call the passport people You give them the day that you're traveling, and then they'll give you an appointment. And hopefully that appointment happens to happen before your flight. And then for us, it was like literally the Friday before. So we didn't have that much time. And you bring proof of that, and then you fill out an application, and then they'll give you your paperwork. So me and my mom, my brother took us, and the baby were able to get our passports like literally that day.
And you had to go to a whole nother state.
I went to Michigan. So you have a couple, I'm thinking it's a business idea though. Can we have one here in Columbus? Anyway, that's too much. But anyways, you had either the option for me of Illinois, right? Chicago, or Michigan, Detroit, Michigan. And we chose Detroit because it was only 3 hours from here.
Yeah.
So we went there, came back the same day. That was tiring.
Yeah.
And then getting ready to go and travel with the baby. I have never traveled with the baby before of my own. And that was, I look like a loca. Like, you know how I always be like, oh, I'm so cute when I travel. That was not this time, guys. That was not.
I'm sure it was cute.
I mean, it looked cute probably from far. I didn't feel cute. That was the first time that I was like, oh my God, like this is hard, right? Traveling with my mom, who's, she's not super young, but not super old. And then managing a car seat and all of that. So it was, that alone was stressful, but the baby was good in the plane. We get home and it was like, I felt so much weight off my shoulders just landing. I think just being in like our weather, which was amazing weather.
Yeah.
And seeing it was surreal to come back home for the first time with the baby, which I had dreamed for so long. My mom had dreamed about this moment for so long. So we got to see family. We were hanging out with my stepfather. I have an uncle that's really ill currently, and we're praying for him. And he got to see the baby, and he was just so excited to see the baby. And he was truly loved. And I was really also supported at my mom's house. But, one thing I thought was, when I'm there, I'm just going to have all this time. But you still have the baby, guys. So you still don't have a lot of time, but it was a slower pace. I was still doing things and having meetings, here and there, but it was a slower pace. But it was still a lot, right? So I got to rest. I did make it intentional to sleep when the baby was sleeping, and we would go for walks. And, I did add all those things. And right before I came, which Christina saw this, is where she thought I was going to stay, is when one of our office administrator is actually from the Dominican Republic, lives there. And she took me out the Sunday before I came. And we had such a great time because to this point, I've gone out only with my parents and, doing things together. But at this point, I was able to go with her and just kind of like have ice cream and see a little bit of the city. And that was really fun. Like
it was cute.
I felt really free. We took videos. There would be a reel somewhere there.
There was. And I saw it and I was trying not to be a hater, but I was like, oh, she looks so happy.
I felt so happy.
And I think after like the 5th or 6th photo, I was like, yeah, let's wrap that up because you got to come home. But no, I could see that you were like breathing and like you were having the time that you needed. And I thought and I hated that you had to come back so quickly because I know like we had a lot happening. But it also is like, it was what you needed. Yeah. And I know you'll be back. Like you'll be out there, I'm sure in the fall sometime.
Yeah, definitely. Already thinking about it. But I think even it was emotional, even my mom, like even though, right, like I have my aunt with me who's incredible. And oh my God, thank God for her. But it's still like, it was really hard for me to leave. I think being a mom, like somehow you see your mom differently. And it was like, that support to me was so, I cried like I think I haven't cried in years. Aww. When I left my mom. I was like, oh no, this is so real. What is happening?
Yeah.
But I'm grateful because even when I was traveling, I was like, what am I traveling with a baby? What am I thinking? I'm crazy. But it was so good that I did it. It was good for like my mind and my body and my family. Sometimes we work so hard. We would never really have the time to take it. So unless you make the decision to take the time, you're never going to have it. Yeah. And then something happens to you or your family and you're like, man, I was so busy working. I was so busy doing. Right. I was never being, and I was never spend time with my loved ones. And I think this was an amazing trip to spend time with those that really I needed to see this time around.
I love that for you. I think that was so necessary. And I think it's even now, like now that Jaira's here, I think your mind will just constantly kind of float more towards like, okay, what are my times of the year that like, and I'm that way. And that about me, like there's certain points throughout the year, because we do work a lot and there are priorities in our work. But,
there's months we can't leave.
There's months that, that we just can't.
Or dates in the month.
We had dates in the month that we're like, no, this is, priority as well. And, we have a business to run and we have obligations, but our families are, are also our responsibility and it's a priority.
Our number one.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I'm the same way. I'm, like spring break is officially started today for my family. And we're going out of town on Sunday, and I'll be back Saturday. And I'm excited to go. Like, this is probably the first time in a long time that I'm not like super overwhelmed behind like what's going to be happening while I'm gone, because it's like I've worked so much for like I feel like the past few months has been so crazy, like with just nonstop work that I'm like, whatever is going to happen, it's going to happen.
They have to figure it
out because that's a true testament of like your leadership and your your ability, because your whole thing shouldn't fall apart while you're gone for 5 days. Like, it really just shouldn't. But you also have to have trust in your team and the systems you've created. And even my colleagues on the board, I let them know, like, yeah, it's not gonna be there, and I'm okay with that, and I'm looking forward to that. And so like that's part of my self-care, is really like, there's certain times of the year, especially during the holidays, like, it's just part of what I need to do to be able to recenter. And even prior to that, you and I used to at least do retreats like twice a year, where we would go somewhere, even if it wasn't anywhere like tropical or fancy. It would be in different parts of Ohio.
Can't wait to pick those up.
Yeah, like we would go to a cabin, or we would find places in the state, and we would just go spend 2 days and just reflect, eat, plan. A lot of what we've done in 12 years has been planned at those retreats. And so like when we launched this podcast, we were actually in Mexico.
We were taking time.
We were working and taking time, and we launched the podcast actually in Mexico.
Yeah.
And Dalton is probably like, wow, I should have been in Mexico.
I know. He's like, why wasn't I there? Right?
Next one, Dalton, you got to come with us. You got a passport, Dalton?
Yeah. Oh yeah. He was overseas. I remember now.
We should do a podcast in the Dominican Republic.
Oh, we should.
Like Cornelia could set up like signups, Dalton, and we can go to DR and like. Yeah, we gotta talk about that. Okay, never mind.
This is our visionary.
This is part of why we can't relax, because it's just like
no matter where we are, though, we always plan. Like, it always happens. Yeah. We are intentional about like taking time for ourselves. Yeah. But no matter where we are,
because there's an opportunity in everything.
It is.
There really is.
We see opportunity in everything.
So if I go to the Dominican Republic, go to the beach, have great food, and I'm making money, like, come.
Let's go.
Let's go. A win is a win, ladies and gentlemen.
I know. You're like, Maylin, come back. I said, well, what if I
was like, we got to open these doors. So I really would hate that you're not in these pictures, because this is, you have to be here. I can't just crop you into this photo. Right. Like, you have to be here.
No, it was so worth it. I am so grateful I came back for that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Oh, it was magical. Like, I wouldn't have been able to like explain to you what happened that night if you wasn't here. And it was so funny because Kent was like, you need to mentally prepare yourself. I said, for what? He was like, she might not come home. And I was like, no. I was like, I will not even entertain that. He was like, all right, I'm just telling you, she's out there with the baby or her mother. She's not going to come back. I was like, no. Maylin is going to come back. He was low key, like slowly, like probably like the week prior, he kept making he's like, you talked to Maylin? I was like, we've texted. Yeah. He's like, all right. And I was like, why do you keep asking me? And I was like, I just don't want you to be, disappointed if she doesn't come back. I was like, if she told me she's coming home, she's coming home. Now, if something happened and the flight was canceled or some emergency, that's different. But I was like, I know Maylin. She was straight up be like, I'm not coming.
Absolutely.
She's not gonna be like, maybe it's either yes or no. Yes. There's no in between. Absolutely. So I was like, Kent, you don't know us like that. I know her. I would tell her if I wasn't coming, and she would tell me if she wasn't coming.
Because you have to prepare.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't do that.
I would have
such a big thing.
I would have known. And so, yeah.
And you're right, because people were coming. They're like, Maylin, I'm like, hey.
Literally, it's like, oh, where's Maylin? I was like, she's upstairs. Don't worry. And they, literally, people hugged me and they're like, where's Maylin? She's upstairs. Don't worry. She's here. It's a baby. No, he's not here, but she is here.
Yes, the baby was not here. It was so many people.
Oh my God. No. Which was better. Yeah.
He'll be crying. I'll be no good to nobody.
I know. And that self-care is so real, because I think it's important that like regardless of what you have going on, that you even if you can't go on a trip right now, like that's totally understandable. But just taking some time to just like breathe, like take a few minutes, whether you're at work or you're at home, just do some breathing or find you some aromatherapy or, go if you have, the financial capacity, like, go to a spa day or go for a walk now that the weather is getting better.
Thank God. Next week's gonna be beautiful.
Right. Depending on where you are, like maybe you already have nice weather. Go outside and just like walk around and take a minute just to recenter. Because I think self-care is also like part of like what we've just described, but then there's also like that mental health self-care.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's like you can't look all polished on the outside, hair done, nails done, eyebrows, like doing what they're supposed
popping.
Right. You got the cute, purse and then inside you feel like just
you're broken.
Yeah, like you have to take time and I think, like finding a therapist, like I recently found a therapist probably this is like my 4th or 5th session with her. And it has been really helpful just checking in with her. Like, I don't feel like, she don't really know me for real. Like, so it's not like, there's anything you can say to this person that is going to come up and, somebody's,
Christina
said, right.
Right.
It's like you can just kind of find a healthy outlet of like sharing how you're feeling or things you're struggling with a person who's not going to judge you, who's going to give you solid advice about how to manage and navigate, or even help you reflect on what you're sharing from like a personal perspective. Like, is it me or is it my lens or how I interpret
Am
this?
I tripping?
Yeah, like am I the problem? So that self-care piece is not only just like the physical aspects, but that those mental pieces are extremely important as well.
And I think, we've seen so much stuff in the news, right? Like you see Instagram and everybody's so happy. And you seeing, unfortunately, people that have passed, right, by suicide that you just saw a video of them dancing on social media. You saw them, doing all these wonderful things. And you're like, wow, they're so happy. I always think about Robert Williams. Like, I love that actor, right?
I loved
Till this
Robin
day,
Williams.
still hurts me, right? And many others that have come after him that, unfortunately, again, social media portrays a picture.
Right.
And then what's happening inside is such a struggle. So I don't judge anyone for doing whatever they done, that they felt was their decision to make. I think what I struggle with is what help, was it preventable, right? And what help could have been they had, family. So you can't do anything about those.
Yeah.
But I think it makes me think about my own family and how I check in, right? Like if somebody says something and I just feel that that's not, I ask probing questions like, okay, but what else? And then what can I, in my capacity, do to support them?
Right.
Because sometimes they don't know how to ask for help because in their mind, you have it all together. So why would they ask you? Or, even though that's not true, guys. Or they, just don't want to ask for help.
Right.
So because of everything that I've seen, and other people sometimes don't take the time for self-care also, is how then are we, right? Kind of gifted with that. Can we help somebody else?
Yeah.
So people that seem to have it all together, even if they do in certain aspects of their life, they probably struggling with something else. And just because you see them all together, don't be jealous. Second, instead of being hating, like maybe see if you can still check in on them. So they say check on your strong friends. That's really true.
Yeah.
Your strong friends are the ones people always go to, so they may not have someone to go to them or they to go to someone. So definitely self-care, mental health is important. And I'm being just more intentional about when I check in with people. I just don't go past okay. I'm like, well, what does that mean? What's going on, right? Like just go a little deeper. Or don't ask if you don't care.
No, facts.
Right? Because I also learned that.
If you are on edge yourself, do not open Pandora's box trying to be somebody else's,
no, because you may not be able to. And maybe you just give them a resource, right? If somebody shows up to say, hey, I'm sorry you're going through this. I'm going to pray for you, but here's this, right? Like try this, go to this, because you may not be able, but at least they know that you care. Sometimes I just need to hear it's going to be okay. This is temporary. Christina's words. This is temporary. Yeah. I started using that like, this is temporary, and telling people that this is temporary.
Yes. Because people make like permanent decisions based on temporary situations.
Yeah.
And I have those conversations with my kids all the time. And I think even as adults, you know, we think we need self-care, but we can't forget about young people needing self-care too.
Yeah.
I don't ever really remember growing up with the idea like what self-care was.
That was not even a word.
No, it was like, oh, you feel sad? Okay, well, go to your room for a little bit.
Don't make it to give you something.
It was like almost like you just, I mean, you didn't talk about it. And if you did, boy, you just better be mentally prepared to hear about it every single day. I mean, and it wasn't my parents' fault. Like they were raised the same way, you know, coming up culturally, you know, from New York, it was very much like this, like, you know, they were raised more rough. And so, you know,
very hostile mentality.
Yeah. It was just kind of like, they didn't have time to be sad. They didn't have time to be anxious. And so the fact that, you know, anybody were to, you know, utter those words was just like, not that they themselves didn't feel that way, but it was not, they were never given the freedom to just openly say how they felt. And ironically, and we've spoke about my dad and I's relationship on this podcast on previous episodes, but for like the past month, my sister has been really like harping over the fact that dad wants to see you guys, like me and my other sister.
Is this Jay?
Huh?
Is his sister?
No. Yes.
Okay.
So, and I was like, no, I'm good. Like, I'm just not interested. And so weirdly enough, a couple of weeks ago, my daughter was back in the hospital and I got a random text message from him. And I was so surprised because, mind you, I hadn't spoken to him in like, I'm convinced I've been blocked for over a year. Like, because I tried to call him like a year ago, I think it was. And I don't remember why. It was something. And it just kept going straight to voicemail. And I'm like, this is the type of person whose phone is never dead because he don't want to miss an opportunity or call something. So I'm like, I'm definitely blocked, which is fine. And so I get a text message from him and it was just like, I heard about your daughter. You know, I'm praying for you guys or something to that effect. And I was like,
who it is? Like, who it is?
And so I was like, okay. So, I wasn't petty about it. I was like, oh, well, thank you. And so last weekend, I actually went with my sister to see him.
Okay. Oh, wow.
Very interesting.
Guys, I'm listening to this for the first time. Hold up. Text me a second. Go ahead.
And so it was interesting because I started to talk myself out of going last minute. And then I was like, no, I'm just going to go. Like, I'll go get it out the way. And we went. And I think my sisters were equally tight about it. When we got there, he wasn't there. His house person was there. I won't call her a house person.
His wife?
No.
I was like, who's the
he
house
has
person?
this lady that has lived with him like over 20 years.
Okay.
And she like helped him raise his other kids. Like she tends to like...
She's like a home manager.
Yeah, which he ain't... I don't know how he got a home manager, but it's almost like a home manager. It is. Because she has like helped with his...
casa de como home manager.
Like she has helped with his other children. Like she handles...
all the house
stuff for him. So like... we got there and
she's the head of housekeeping.
Yeah, for Vera Enterprise, I guess. And so she opens the door for us and she was like, your dad told me you guys are coming, like you can come in. And I was like, well, thank you so much. So awkward. Hi. So, so we wait for him. And the whole time we're sitting there and I'm just like, if he doesn't come in the next 10 minutes, I'm rolling. Like, this is too much. So then finally he shows up.
There was the three of you.
There's the three of us. And so he comes and he right away, he's a comedian at heart. Like he always wants to try to make a joke because he doesn't know how to be serious.
It's uncomfortable.
It's so uncomfortable for him. And just to see how like uncomfortable he was, it also was like, he was just trying to make light of the whole situation. So he comes in, he sits down, he's looking at all of us. I'm to his left. My other sisters are both to his right. And me and my other sister is to his left. My one sister is to his right. And then his wife walked in with him. So she's sitting to his right now. And that was actually my first time really engaging with her as well. Like I've only ever seen her really in passing. And it was just so interesting because the whole time I felt like he was like, at first he didn't want to like have any real serious conversation. But then like my one sister, I could tell she had been preparing for this day.
And
yes. So she was just making like all kinds of like little
waiting
comments. And I was like, oh, you're just poking a bear. Like this is going to go left. But,
so now you want to talk to us?
Yeah, right. It was almost like that. And so, but I would say towards the end of the evening, and it ended up being a much longer visit than we anticipated. He had made the comment about, he was like, we have to move forward, is what he kept saying. And he was like, I know I did a lot of things. He was like, but you have to understand the way I was raised was very different. And that was his first time really ever acknowledging that, he didn't go much into his childhood. I know bits and pieces, but he was very, like, you could tell it was almost equally therapeutic for him to have all of us there together because his wife kept making comments about, Jimmy, aren't you happy? Aren't you happy that all your girls are here or something like that? And so he was like, yeah, I'm happy. Like, what do you want me to do? Like, because like I said, my dad's real New York. He doesn't like the whole emotional aspect. So she's like trying to get him to
cry.
She's trying to get him to be emotional, and he's just like clapping back at her in the most New York way possible. And so she was like, aren't you happy that he was like, what do you want me to do? Put him in my pocket? Yes, I'm happy. And then so I'm just sitting there, I'm just like shaking my head. And she was like, you need to stop acting like that because you've missed them. And like, mind you, this is my only second real, like, I met her one time at a skating ring like 3 years ago, maybe 2 years ago. And so this was my second time really being around her. And I won't go down that rabbit hole, but ultimately, like, I could tell they must have been having conversations because she kept talking about, like, it's important for you to like tell them that you're proud of them and tell them the things that that they're doing. Like, she was like bringing up all this stuff, and I'm like, what the heck is happening here? It was just the most. So me and my sisters were just sitting there like, we don't know what the hell's going on. Like, it was just too much. And so, but he made a lot of like acknowledgments, not everything we would have wanted, like, but I think for him, it was a big step in the right direction. And then when I got ready to leave, I was driving, getting ready to pull off, and I like lowered my window. I was like, all right, Dad, I'll see you later. And he leans into the car and he's like, he takes my hand.
Shake your hand.
He's like, okay. He's like, all right, I'll see you soon, okay? Oh. I can't tell you that. I don't even know the last time I shook hands with my dad. Like, it's just, and it might sound awkward, like, you shook your dad's hand. I was like, yeah, because he's not the type of...
That's touch, guys. If you know touch,
if
that's
you don't
touch.
know my dad, he's not one of those people.
Touchy-feely people.
Well, he shook my hand. I was shocked. The whole thing was shocking.
Yeah.
But I could tell whatever led up to him wanting to see us, even if it was a one-time thing, because he is so like back and forth. But like I was telling my sisters, I was like, we just have to accept this moment for what it is.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah, not read too much into it. But I could tell like there must be conversations around his mental health and his self-care in their household for him to have acted that way. And just the whole demeanor. Like, I'm almost 40. And I mean, like I said, this is just not a version of him I've ever really seen consistently. And so, I know that whatever he's doing, working on himself, it's, starting to help him, which ultimately will trickle into, for what it can, into our relationships and my relationships with, because he has 10 kids total.
And grandkids.
Oh, he got hella grandkids. But, he has 10 children and he has 4 with my mother. Well, I'm one of the 4. And so like we've got all these siblings that like we've grown up very separated. And, so I think when you talk about like just wanting to do better because you know better, it's also like taking the time to evaluate maybe why some of the habits or stressors you have could be related to childhood, things or trauma. So it's like understanding that self-care is multidimensional.
So much.
It's not just spa days and like Starbucks. Although those are very therapeutic. I mean,
absolutely.
Starbucks does something to me. And I mean, it's not even that it's great coffee. I think it's just a vibe. Like when you get it, like I have Starbucks and I'm going to go walk around Target. Like,
their marketing has been great. It's psychological. We know this. It's working. It's doing a great job. Pay the psychologist, Starbucks. Pay them.
Yeah. But it's more than that. It's deeper than that. And I think it's important that if you have the ability to really hone in on your self-care, and even for your kids or your nieces and nephews or just kids that you mentor, like it's like young people also need to have breaks. they need, like some days when one of my kids will come to me and be like, can I just stay home today? And I don't make that a habit because I'm like, you have me in school. But I can always tell when the vibe is much more than they just don't want to go to school.
Right. When it's just intense.
Yeah, there's like a feeling about it, like the way they look, the way they say it to me. I'm just like, yeah, you can stay home. Or if it's like they, I could tell they've been sad a lot lately. They've been in their room. I'll just be like, listen, you want to, do you want to go out to eat? Do you want to go shopping? Like whatever little things that I can do to like help them where I see, or even with my little nieces and nephews, especially, my older nephews, because boys are much more reserved. Like, they don't come to me like, oh, Titi, like I need this or this happened. So for them, I typically have to like bribe them with something to get, but I do it if I can, because I also know that they're going through so much and they're not going to just speak out and say, I'm depressed or I have anxiety or I have issues at school with people bullying me or liking me. So young people have a lot of weight because when we were kids, like a situation could happen in school. Only people who knew about it was the people that were there. And then in about a week, nobody was talking about it anymore.
Was done.
Now, forget about it. Social media, TikTok, Instagram.
Text messages.
Like your business will be viral and then you almost cannot escape it.
Because they won't put it down. They won't let it go. And I think sometimes when I hear parents, I had a conversation with a couple of parents last week, and they said their daughter was, she suffers, I think, from anxiety a little bit, but then she's like, they started with, she's a 4.0, she's great, she does all these things. And I said, oh, even before they told me about anxiety, I said, yeah, I like you to keep an eye on her.
Yeah.
Right? Because we have seen how the kids that feel like they have to be overachievers also struggle. And sometimes in silence. Yeah. So I tell parents, just because your kid is doing great in school,
that doesn't
mean that they're okay.
No.
It doesn't. Like they probably need more help. They probably, especially if they're not talking about things, like check in with them. Because maybe they have also these really hard expectations on themselves.
Right.
That maybe you didn't put on them, but they got from you or they failed from somewhere. And just helping them alleviate that. Because I've seen so many news articles and so many things about high achieving students that are no longer with us, right? Because of whatever reason. So everybody, just as you check with people that are super high achievers or even kids, check on them. I know for youth, we pay attention to that, and we actually were able to do a retreat day for our girls. Right, this past weekend. And you were there. So kind of like, what was that? What could you see that was needed?
Yeah. I mean, yes. And even because of the work we do with young girls all the time, oftentimes they'll come and they'll tell us about stuff that even their families don't know about or stuff that's happening in school or even real time, whether it be like a relationship issue or they're, struggling academically. And so, they just are under so much stress. And it's hard to communicate with your parents. And even as a person who does this work and has done this work for so many years, it happens with me and my kids. Like I have to find out stuff about them through taking their cell phones or just random things. And I'm like, I see you every day. And I had no idea. So parents, it's
not you.
It happens to all of us. And so, and then sometimes you only see what you want to see. And so, when we were kind of seeing this consensus around the girls that we're serving in our agency, we're just like overwhelmed and stressed. We were like, well, let's have a retreat day for them. And we did. We had 25 girls here. They got, skincare. We had a massage therapist here. They got neck massages. They did yoga. They got essential oil. So we kind of also sent them home with a whole kind of like wellness bundle that they can take home and hopefully they'll be able to use, while they're at home or at school.
Yeah. And if you don't have the bundle, anything helps. I think even if it's just like setting a time, taking them for a walk, some they like ice cream, taking for ice cream, pizza, whatever it is.
You love ice cream.
I do love ice cream.
Do you still love ice cream?
I do still love it so much. That's never going to change. I love it way too much. But yes, I feel like just find out what works for you, right? That you can give. Find out what works for you to give to yourself first. Because I think it's like the oxygen mask. It starts with you.
Yeah.
Get yourself together, get yourself supported, and then what can you help others with, and then do that. Even if it's just one person, I feel like that's a nice ripple effect you can start.
I agree.
So as Christina leaves on her self-care next week, next time we connect, she'll tell us all about her trip and how it went.
I'm taking my kids, so I don't know how much self-care is actually going to happen. Parents, you know what I mean by that. You need a vacation after you take your kids on vacation. You'll understand here shortly.
Yes.
This trip is really for them. I mean, I also will have fun, and I'm excited to build memories with them.
Yes.
So my goal is just to like not be controlling, not be like, oh, you know, what are we wearing? What, like, I literally told my husband, I'm not even trying to be cute on this trip. Like, this
she will be
really,
cute.
No, I really plan not to be. Not that.
But you can be cute. You're just not trying to be like super.
I'm
like,
not trying to be extra.
Okay.
Let me say it
there
that
we
way.
Go.
Like, I want to wear like cotton t-shirts and shorts, and like I just want to like eat ice cream with Adrian and go swimming and just chill. Like, I don't want it to be like. I'm not looking for an Instagram vacation.
There you go.
You
want a Christina vacation with her family.
I just want to chill. I just want to have a good time, eat pizza, relax with the kids and Kent. And then ultimately, hopefully I'll come back replenished.
You will.
And reset.
And with new ideas, right, for business,
for
guys.
The new quarter. Yes. So
if she see ocean, it's over.
Oh, I love the ocean. I can't wait. I mean, I literally cannot wait.
Anytime she sees the ocean, I was like, oh, here comes ideas.
I'm bringing my notebook.
Let me prepare.
I already have one. We're going to Dominican Republic with Dalton, and we're going to have a podcast retreat.
Yes. We're probably going to be there at the end of the year anyway, doing some work. So, yes.
All right, sounds good. Well, you heard it first here. We'll be expanding soon in the Dominican Republic.
Yes, God willing.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Well, thank you for tuning in. And we hope that you take some time for yourself, whether it be today, tomorrow, or even if you are able to do that with no problem. Think about the people who need support in that area.
How can you support them?
Can you pick up a kiddo? Can you drop off some aromatherapy, some flowers? Like any kind of contribution that can also assist someone else in being able to take part in self-care is also a gift.
I love that.
Yep. So until we meet again,
it's bigger than you. Thank you so much for listening today. We're excited and we hope that you follow us on
Instagram, True Print for Life, YouTube channel, also True Print for Life. And make sure that you share, like, watch our videos. Make sure that you follow us on all streaming platforms.